people have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness.
Hey, that fella's talking about me.
You can't stop the new world. We are the future. No.
The job of art is to be propaganda. It's to sell something. It is all propaganda. It's all to just keep the hamster wheel going.
The origin of propaganda is both vague and specific.
Oh, son, you're too vague.
It developed alongside civilization itself, embedded in every form of communication.
Symbolic communication lies at the heart of propaganda. It's the tools from which propaganda formed.
From ancient cave paintings to Egyptian temple reliefs to historical records and religious texts, the art of persuasion and manipulation has been with us from the dawn of man. And it is best encapsulated in the adage, "History is written by the victors," a phrase first uttered by Napoleon Bonaparte at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Okay, you're not going to let me get away with that, are you? Please tell me you know that the Battle of Bunker Hill was a Revolutionary War conflict in 1775, and Napoleon was an anthropomorphic pig from George Orwell's Animal Farm. Okay, alright, you got me again. Napoleon was a real dude. He was born in 1769, which means he would have been 6 years old during the Battle of Bunker Hill. I mean, he was also in France at the time.
This man is obviously a psychotic.
Oh, and he had nothing to do with the phrase, "History is written by the victors." A variation of the phrase is attributed to Winston Churchill, but the honest truth is that no one really knows where the hell it came from. It's an ethereal heuristic for understanding historical bias and how power can shape narratives. The adage complements another phrase, which goes a little something like this: "Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past," which I believe was first introduced by the once relevant rock band Rage Against the Machine. Oh, God damn it, guys. It was Orwell from 1984. Come on! The word propaganda originates from the Latin propagare, meaning to spread or to propagate. Its common usage originated in the early 17th century within the Catholic Church and the Congregatio de Propaganda Fide, or Congregation for Propagating the Faith. But make no mistake, the concept predates the word by thousands of years.
Propaganda exploits your need to believe something, your need for belief.
World leaders have used it to obtain and maintain power. Revolutions have used it to sway public opinion and mobilize forces. Religions have used it to spread ideological messaging. And in ancient Greece, propaganda was employed through the theater to influence civic behavior. In the mid-15th century, the invention of the Gutenberg press helped jumpstart the European printing revolution and introduced the concept of mass communication to the world. This came with significant benefits like the proliferation of scientific ideas, but also gave those who were interested in shaping narratives a new tool to manipulate the public, for better or worse.
We all like to flatter ourselves and think we don't consume propaganda. Other people do.
With the advent of moving pictures in the late 19th century, the lure of mass persuasion was too tempting to ignore. Sure enough, no sooner than the technology had been developed, its utility for crafting narratives and manipulating the public was adopted on a global scale, most notably in times of war.
We must work untiringly so that our children are obliged to learn the truth. Because it is only through knowledge that we can safely protect them.
Are there earlier examples of cinematic propaganda prior to the birth of a nation? Sure, there's the 1912 Balkan War flick, The Independence of Romania, and before that, Alice Guy's The Life of Christ from 1906. We can go back as far as the late 1890s with Australia's Limelight Department. It was operated by the Salvation Army and produced evangelistic content, which absolutely counts. And the late 19th century also gave us the first newsreels, short films containing news stories and topical interest pieces. They became commonplace in the first couple decades of the 20th century, but were around for years beforehand. The point I'm making here is that propaganda was being infused in films from the moment they came into existence. But none have anchored themselves in the history of film as deeply as D.W. Griffith's 1915 silent epic and Ku Klux Klan masturbatory trash heap, The Birth of a Nation. I mean, it starts off with this title card, for Christ's sake. Was it a technical marvel when it was released? Absolutely. Does it showcase some brilliant cinematography? You bet. Is it wildly racist and nausea-inducing? Oh man, Yeah. It's insane. Scapegoating, stereotyping, appeals to fear, all that stuff, it's all here, wrapped up in a hate-filled package that tries to paint the KKK as noble heroes. The best part of this white supremacist wank fest is the fact that even when it was released, most people were like, holy shit guys, this is crazy racist. It just goes to show, even a technically brilliant movie can still be trash. During the Great War, aka World War I, governments around the world discovered the potential of moving pictures to inspire and shape public opinion. Films were produced to celebrate patriotism and nationalist themes, and encourage enlistment in the military. The Russian Revolution produced films for similar purposes, but also as a tool to educate, to boost morale, and to mobilize the masses. Enter Battleship Potemkin in 1925. Now, I don't want to get all into the politics of the film because it's just communists being communists. Ugh. But the gist of the whole thing is that it was a commissioned movie used to celebrate the 20th anniversary of a 1905 mutiny. Sergei Eisenstein was brought in to direct the film, and was very much aware of its use as propaganda. He used the opportunity to experiment with montage, attempting to maximize emotional response. Characters and plot were simplified to help audiences relate to and sympathize with the soldiers aboard the Potemkin. Like The Birth of a Nation, Battleship Potemkin is blatant propaganda full of beautiful cinematography and movie-making techniques that have lived on for over a century. Unlike The Birth of a Nation, Battleship Potemkin isn't 3 fucking hours long and is actually enjoyable to watch. While the First World War saw the establishment of industrialized, government-managed propaganda like posters, pamphlets, and films, it was the Second World War that saw its true power fully realized. In the lead up to the war, those nutty Germans were up to some world-class cinematic shenanigans. The Reich Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, aka the Ministry of Propaganda, was formed in the aftermath of the Nazi Party's rise to power in 1933. Led by propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, that's kind of a fun name to say. Joseph Goebbels. Led by propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. The ministry controlled the content of communications throughout the country for over a decade. By 1934, the Ministry of Propaganda, via revisions of the Reich Film Law, had made it so that every film project required approval before filming. Scripts were reviewed for violations of National Socialist, moral, or artistic sensibilities, with big air quotes on those last two categories. That same year, filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl was hard at work on Triumph of the Will, one of the most notorious propaganda films, and yet another reason why women shouldn't be allowed to direct movies. Stop it. It was a joke, you big baby.
You funny.
Commissioned by the Big H himself, Triumph of the Will chronicled the National Socialist Congress in Nuremberg, and features speeches by top officials mixed with national vignettes of German life and support for the party. The film is historically significant not only as a piece of propaganda, but for Riefenstahl's artistry and filming techniques, particularly her use of music and montage to elicit emotion. It's a masterclass in the use of techniques like transference, glittering generalities, and ad nauseum, and it's a direct evolution of Potemkin's storytelling, inspired heavily by the Moscow Film School and filmmaker Lev Kuleshov. Triumph of the Will was used to manipulate the German population and rally them behind the National Socialist Party through patriotism and pride, not hatred. That comes later. Meanwhile, back in America, film producer George Herleman was hard at work taking money from a church group to fund a low-budget morality play on the dangers of weed. Low on artistic merit and comedically blunt with its messaging,
This, I understand, could be attributed to the use of marijuana.
Reefer Madness has been a cult classic for decades, probably because it's so much fun to watch when you're high.
Bring me some reefers.
Okay, so while the Americans were busy chastising kids for smoking dope, the Germans were going balls to the wall with their psychological manipulation. Earlier efforts were aimed at rallying the country around overly patriotic messaging, but by the late 1930s, the veneer had fallen away and exposed a hateful rhetoric that remains shocking to this day. The 1940 film, The Eternal Jew, relinquished all airs of artistry in favor of pure, uninhibited bigotry. It's 60-odd minutes of demonization in which the Jewish people are compared to rats and parasites. If you thought The Birth of a Nation was bad for its portrayal of black people, hold on to your hat, son.
They used prejudice as a practical weapon to cripple the nation.
The film, if we can call it that without throwing up in our collective mouths, uses imagery and narrative to construct a moral framework for the elimination of an entire group of people. It portrays a moral battle between the upstanding Aryan peoples of Germany versus the despicable evil of the Jewish community. Using nearly every single propaganda technique to its fullest, the quote-unquote documentary spends an entire hour bombarding the viewer with lies and bias. Its despicable content matched only by all of the other movies that were being released in Germany at the same time. It's nuts. These lunatics were pumping out anti-Semitic material faster than an edgy content creator on Adderall. The only good thing to come out of this dreck is this brief moment from the latter half of the film.
The Relativity Jew, Albert Einstein.
Fucking hilarious. Calling Einstein the Relativity Jew is too much, man. During both world wars, governments across the world used their political influence to both directly and indirectly produce propaganda films to promote patriotism, demonize their enemies, and recruit soldiers. Produced by the Army Signal Corps beginning in the early 40s, Frank Capra's 7-film series Why We Fight was a direct response to Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will. It aimed to accomplish the same goals but for the American population, while simultaneously rationalizing the US involvement in the war. But American war propaganda came in many shapes. Several years earlier, in the late 30s, and after viewing Riefenstahl's documentary, Charlie Chaplin decided to craft his own cinematic response. A comedy and a satire called The Great Dictator. In the film, Chaplin plays the role of both dictator and ghetto barber to great effect. Mocking Hitler and the Nazi Party while generating sympathy and compassion for the persecuted Jewish population. He was well aware of his film's propagandistic nature, and even breaks the fourth wall during the film's denouement to imply as much.
Greed has poisoned men's souls, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed.
Chaplin's film would go on to achieve global success after its release, earning the distinction of being one of the greatest satires of all time. In addition, it would also inspire future directors like Stanley Kubrick, Mel Brooks, and Mikhail Kalatozov. Who the hell is Mikhail Kalatozov? Well, he was a Soviet filmmaker, and to be perfectly honest, I have no idea whether he was inspired by Charlie Chaplin or The Great Dictator. I just made that shit up because I needed a segue. You guys have got to stop letting me get away with this shit. Anyway, he was the director of the 1964 Cold War production Soy Cuba, or I Am Cuba. It's more commie gobbledygook inspired by the Cuban Revolution, but good God almighty is it a beautiful film. If you can get past the excessive Dutch angles.
How exactly do you plan to do that?
It's jam-packed with gorgeous cinematography and one of the most impressive long shots in cinematic history. It's also notable for being a softer form of propaganda, integrating slogans and nationalism in a far more authentic and natural way. It's a symbolic representation of the maturation of propaganda, and how filmmakers were learning to embed their political messaging within artistic narratives to influence hearts and minds without military conflict. Now, that doesn't mean that we weren't still getting blatantly obvious propaganda. Of course we were, and are. Made with the assistance of the United States Army and the Department of Defense, The Green Berets was a John Wayne anti-communist passion project that oscillated between live-action 60s Disney melodrama and occasionally brutal war film. The whole thing was prompted by the anti-war sentiment of the time, and Wayne was having none of it. Not in my country, pilgrim. I can do better. Not in my country, pilgrim.
I like the way you talk.
Not in my country, you dirty communist. Is that John Wayne or is that Charlton Heston? I am not good at impressions. Oh my god. Okay, where was I? Oh right, the film was a box office success, but universally panned by critics. Probably because it was obvious propaganda and not a great movie. On March 28, 1979, in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, the 3 Mile Island nuclear generating station had a partial nuclear meltdown. Radioactive gases were released into the environment, and the accident became the worst commercial power plant incident in US history. And one of the best marketing campaigns for a movie, second only to the Batman Returns cups from McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm Batman.
Where's the trigger?
Less than 2 weeks prior to the 3 Mile Island accident, The China Syndrome was released in theaters. It's a well-made, albeit extremely predictable thriller that tells the story of an accident at a nuclear facility caused by human error, bad management, and corner-cutting douchebags. The movie was primarily a condemnation of corporate accountability, or the lack thereof, with faint environmentalist undertones. Faint environmentalist undertones that were amplified 1,000-fold with the subsequent 3 Mile Island incident.
It was an accident and we could have been killed.
Don't you think that's stretching it a little bit?
It created something that I like to call retroactive propaganda, or unintentional propaganda. There was definitely a political narrative from the very beginning, but unforeseen events transformed the film into an anti-nuclear juggernaut that helped sour public opinion for decades.
I'm out here protesting because I'm frightened. What do we do in case of an accident?
Whether intentional or not, the fear-mongering in The China Syndrome was undeniably effective. Okay, what else? Okay, how about... You think I'm joking? You think I'm goofing around to lighten the mood or something? Escape to Victory, pro-football. Ugh. First Blood, pro-vet, anti-war. I can get behind that, sure, but not so much with Rhinestone's pro-country music propaganda. And then we get his anti-commie run with Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rocky 4. Awfully convenient timing with those ones, Mr. Stallone. But kudos, I suppose. I mean, communism. Ugh. Oh, and Cobra? You think Marion Cobretti is above being a propagandist? The film is a stealth advertising campaign for Pepsi and sex robots. It's all there, man. It's all there right in front of us. Open your eyes, man.
Either I'm dead right or I'm crazy.
And what about Nighthawks, Rocky 3, Staying Alive, Over the Top, Lock Up, and Tango and Cash? Yes? What, I gotta do all the work? It's easy to spot propaganda in hindsight. It's easy to notice the intentions behind a film decades after the fact or when it's been explained by someone else. The trick is to learn how to identify it in the moment, how to recognize the motives in modern media.
When we don't think it's propaganda, it works the best as propaganda.
Propaganda in film gets more sophisticated over time, with some exceptions, but talented filmmakers are capable of blending it into a narrative, disguising it with flashy production values and movie magic. In addition to the aforementioned films, which are all worth watching in aid of expanding your knowledge of cinematic propaganda, I've got some extra credit for the keeners. Here are 13 movies that cover propaganda-adjacent topics to help you expand your media literacy. We'll start with a classic, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Somebody'll listen to me.
Frank Capra, Jimmy Stewart, and it's about political corruption, media manipulation, and the suppression of truth.
Come on, give it to us straight.
It doesn't get the attention it deserves today, but A Face in the Crowd is an exceptionally relevant look at the bandwagoning and the power of the common man. While not as overtly relatable to propaganda as some of the other entries on this list,
What are you talking about?
Dr. Strangelove has a great deal to say about the role of fear in conflict.
That is precisely the idea.
And it's heavily inspired by The Great Dictator and one of Stanley Kubrick's best films, so it's worth watching if you haven't seen it. Besides being a beautiful and engaging film, The Battle of Algiers deals with the duality of propaganda and its effective use within the context of guerrilla warfare.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
The co-opting of rage culture, the commercialization of political views, the dishonesty of news media, network has it all.
Go to yourselves! Because that's the only place you're ever gonna find any real truth!
Including some absolutely stunning performances by Peter Finch, Faye Dunaway, and Robert Duvall. This one is non-negotiable, a must-watch. Okay, this one too. I'd recommend reading the book over watching the movie in this particular instance, but if you're not willing to sit down with Orwell's classic, then the movie will do. It deals with the omnipresence of propaganda, the retconning of narratives through media manipulation, and much more. Sure, some folks don't like Chomsky, and I'll admit that a good chunk of this documentary kind of goes off the rails for a bit, but it's still worth checking out. It's got some great insight into all the little ways the media screws with us on a regular basis.
What keeps the media functioning is not the audience. They make money from their advertisers.
Distraction is the name of the game. Wag the Dog is an over-the-top comedy about how far power can and will go to avoid getting burned by the light of day. It's got great performances and an evergreen message about political deception.
When it's cooking, it's cooking.
Nightcrawler is a stylish and disturbing look at the dark underbelly of network news and the fabrication of narratives. And it also features a pretty fantastic performance by Jake Gyllenhaal.
I like to say that if you're seeing me, you're having the worst day of your life.
I know. It's crazy. Alright, it's not one of my favorite films, but The Report is a half-decent movie that throws Zero Dark 30 under the bus in epic fashion. It illustrates the evil power of bureaucracy and soft language eloquently. Okay, this Canadian documentary about propaganda is insanely biased, which probably isn't super surprising if you know anything about Canada over the past couple of decades.
The heart of any propaganda campaign is an emotional appeal of some kind of emotional appeal.
It uses the Kuleshov effect and a number of other propaganda techniques to demonize an entire political party, and it must be seen to be believed. Wildly irresponsible filmmaking and a perfect example of why documentaries are not to be trusted. We all know the power social media has on manipulating and influencing users. The Social Dilemma, while obviously taking a particular position on the technology, does a great job of highlighting nefarious techniques that have cross-media implications. And last, but certainly not least,